So yes, this approach to meditation that we're calling, well, just sitting, simply being, pure awareness, is yes, it's a way of coming to meditation where we try to focus on simple seeing of our experience as it arises in this moment. And we talked about one way of doing that is we've got these 6 senses, including the mind sense, thoughts, images. And all of this experience is arising in this moment, in whatever way it's arising. Sometimes, we're focused on one part of that experience, sometimes on another. But in a way, with just sitting, we stand back from our experience and just see it all sort of arising. And one of the useful ways to get into that is trying to see that there's a kind of space around all of our experience, that everything arises in this spacious sense of awareness. And another way of talking about that is everything just arising out of silence or arising out of stillness. And we don't tend to notice, what it is. We don't tend to notice the background of our experience. So we're going to focus a little bit on that again today. So yeah, there's some analogies that we can talk about for this. So, the blue sky is a classic one. That awareness is like the blue sky. Everything that arises in experience is like clouds that arise in that blue sky. Just like clouds, most of what arises is, I think the word would be evanescent, which means something like sort of whispery, like floaty, like clouds are. You don't get this chance much in this country, but I remember once being in Spain and sitting with a friend and actually a Spanish goat shepherd. We were looking up at the sky and totally blue. And the shepherd who lived in the mountains for years and kept his goats up there, this Buddhist retreat centre there. He said, it's going to rain. Really? Yeah, it's going to rain. And then shortly after that, about 5 minutes after that, this cloud just sort of emerged out of the blue sky. It wasn't really, it wasn't like a big cloud, but it was just like a wisp of cloud, and then a little bit more, as gradually went on, these clouds appeared. So our experience is, is a lot like this. It's floating in, wisps of it, falling away. But the tendency of our the self, of the me, of the mind, is to hook on to certain parts of that experience. So we might hook on to a sound that is irritating us and start getting caught up in that, sort of entangled into that. Yeah. So, yes, it's really just catching ourselves if that entanglement goes on. Maybe we might see it. Maybe we might be able to just sort of release from that and sit back, as it were, into the blue sky. Other times, we don't want to get sort of caught in that. In a way, it's all fine. It's all just what's arising in that moment, including, the entanglement. But what can help a bit with this, I think, is become a little bit more conscious of the blue sky itself. Other analogies which might be useful: the ocean and the waves. That's a classic one that's used. That awareness, beingness is like the ocean, and what arises in beingness, not different from that ocean, but it arises as waves on that ocean. And we identify with the waves. We don't see that it is part of the whole ocean. So we could do a little exercise with this. I'm just wondering whether to demonstrate this better, maybe to do it with one person as a little dialogue to start with, and then that might help to make it a bit clearer, and then we could do it together. Volunteers? Okay. Thanks.
I'm happy to volunteer.
Okay. Well, Alice was first. But thanks, Jerry. Okay, so yeah, you guys can do this at the same time if you wish to, or you can just listen. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I just invite you to close your eyes. So without thinking about it, what is there in direct experience? And you can answer to these questions.
Want me to say out loud?
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah. In my direct experience right now, I'm aware of a sensation in my stomach. It's like a horseshoe shape.
Yeah.
I'm aware of sensations around either side of my neck and my shoulders. And I'm aware of the sound of the traffic outside.
Okay. Yeah. So, who is it that is experiencing that? Just whatever comes.
Yeah, body and definitely thinking mind.
Okay, body and thinking mind. So that thinking mind, is that like a sort of reporting of information about your experience?
It's like a brittle layer over the top of my awareness.
Okay. So what is it that sees that brittle thing over the top of your awareness?
It feels like the fuzziness of the body that is also in the room sees.
Fuzziness of the body that's already in the room that sees. So it's like the body that sees.
No, it's not just the body, it's the atmosphere in the body. sensation in the body.
Okay.
The body's too solid.
So the sensation that sees,
It feels like a feeling, sensing, yeah.
feeling, sensing. So what is it that knows that's feeling, sensing?
It's just a bit panicky now.
Okay.
I think my awareness zoomed out, way, way out with the question, and then came back to this kind of point of tension in the body.
Yeah. So just, we'll stay with that point of tension in the body. It feels right. What is it that knows that experience? Yeah, that's a good answer. Can you kind of feel back into what is it that knows that tension in the body? Not the tension itself, but the knowing.
It just feels like a beautiful emotion that involved. Any other qualities you might like to? It's just very, very soft and alive.
Soft, alive, beautiful immersion that you're part of.
Just catching a thread of sorrow within it.
Do you want to say anything about that? That's anything you don't want to. Can still be in touch with what it is that knows the thread of sorrow.
has, just hold it to speak now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's fine. Maybe that's enough. Maybe to a little exploration. Unless there's anything you want to say, Alice, just draw it to a close. Yeah. Thanks very much for being a willing participant. Okay. All right, so that you could describe that as an inquiry, just looking into what it is that sees our experience. And it's interesting. We don't necessarily get an answer to that question, but it can be useful stepping back, into that, what it is that sees. As a way of becoming a bit more tuned into the blue sky rather than what's arising in it. Okay, so we'll start a meditation for today. And well, first of all, we'll just get ourselves into the meditation bit, and then we'll use a little bit of that inquiry we've just been doing with Alice to conclude in the meditation. Sometimes these kinds of inquiries, they can bring up something for us. I mean, this is true of meditation generally. So, well, all sorts really. Energy can arise through the inquiry as maybe something is seen. Sometimes anxiety or fear can arise in the inquiry. We feel like, or the mind feels like it's going into some place that it doesn't quite know. So it's always good to remember with meditation that there is this open exploration aspect to it. Touched on this slightly last week when Eva asked her question about things arising. So just being gentle with that, and if there is something that comes up or some place that feels a bit difficult, asking yourself if it's okay to go with that. And if it doesn't feel okay, it's perfectly fine just to not go with that. And I suggest just coming back to the body and the body sensations if one feels a bit overwhelmed at all in the meditation. Okay. So we'll start, as we have been starting, with the body, awareness of the body. So the body form a very stable, reliable ground or experience in meditation. Taking awareness into the body, grounds the body, takes us out of the thinking mind, out of the entangled places that we can get into. Sometimes the body also holds difficulties. So if by going into the body we come across those, just bearing in mind what's already been said about difficult experience arising in meditation, asking whether it's okay to go there. And if not, coming back to some place that feels safe. Even opening our eyes if we need to, if that happens. So we may have a particular way that we come into the body. We may use the breath. Be happy to just stay with the breathing. Or we can do body awareness, the body scan, coming down from the head, down into the lower abdomen. Or whatever it is, trying to come to the direct experience of the body and its sensations. This can feel like it starts to be the body itself that sees. The body itself that is aware, rather than looking down at the body from the head. We're actually in the body itself. Sensations around the head and face. Lips, eyes, jaw, back of the head. Wherever we notice sensation. What is that sensation actually feeling like? The neck and throat. dwelling in the area, allowing the sensations to emerge in awareness. The upper chest, the area around it's called the breastplate or the solar plexus, that area between the ribs at the front. Looking for the sensations, looking for the direct experience of the body. And we can sink back from the breastbone and look inside. Sensations there around the heart area, even behind the heart. Sensations in the diaphragm, bottom of the rib cage. So moving down to the lower abdomen, looking for the direct sensations in the lower abdomen. Expanding out to take in the whole body. You can notice that the supposed edges of the body may not be as defined and clear-cut as our idea of the body thinks they are. And that actually in awareness, the sense of inside and outside and boundary becomes blurred. The body can seem to be more like a cloud of sensation and vibration within what is like a space. Noticing that space is alive, aware, sounds are arising, sounds in the room, sounds outside the room, even sounds within the body. Noticing that they too are simply arising in this aware space. Out of that space, dissolving back into that space. Coming out of silence and dissolving back into silence. Even sounds that might seem quite constant, if we can look close enough, we notice that they are arising and falling, that they are not static. If we step back a little further, we can also see that thoughts, very similar to the sound, the sensation, just arising into this space, disappearing into this space, coming out of silence and dissolving back into silence. So if we feel okay to, ask ourselves the question, who or what is it that sees experience arising and passing away. Who or what is it that it sees all experience arising and passing away? So usually when we ask a question, it's the mind, the thinking mind, that wants to answer. Sometimes it scrambles around for an answer. But this isn't a question for the thinking mind. More if we can sense or feel our way into what it is that sees our experience. So an inquiry might open out into something. It might open out into some sense or feeling. It might also open out into confusion. Confusion of the thinking mind that's trying to answer the question. It's all okay, whatever happens. Not forcing anything. trying to answer the question, but if we can, as it were, slip back into it, sink back into it. Or what is it that sees? It's arising in our experience right now. Relaxing back into the blue sky. Letting go of any effort, albeit very gentle effort. Just letting everything freewheel. Time really gently coming out of the meditation.